Okay, well, thank you so much for joining our webinar today. We are with WiSys and Data Masons, and they will be discussing accelerating your business with Streamlined Shipping in EDI for Macola. I'm Heather Robinson with Data Masons, and I'm joined by Bob Hawk, the Director of Sales at WiSys, and Glenn McPeak, the Principal and EDI Expert at Data Masons. Over the next 30 or 40 minutes, they will be sharing about accelerating your business with Streamlined Shipping and EDI, as well as having live Q&A at the end of the webinar. So at this time, I'd like to hand it over to Bob.
Thank you, Heather. Well, good afternoon. I'll go ahead and begin. Glenn is my silent partner right now and will speak up as needed. I'll be doing most of the presentation today on my particular system with everything on it, so you'll see things work. I have a couple of slides to just paint the picture of where we're going today. If you are looking at EDI, it means that you're entering a very sophisticated world of interconnected systems. That particular systems need to work together to help you deal with the velocity of orders and business that you're having to deal with. And also having to do that without hiring a small army of people to get things done. The goal here with these bullet points on the left would be first to simplify. Second, to meet partner requirements. And thirdly, help enable you to be able to enable your business to expand without having a lot of overhead. In the middle of my screen, I have a few applications that we're going to be working on today. I'm using the Macola 10 product. I have both the classic client-server product to use, and I also have the Macola 10 product on a browser, and I have some components plugged into both. I will also be using the handheld software to build my shipment, and the Data Masons product is going to be running in the background. Let's go a little further. As orders flow into the system, you're going to see that I'm going to be able to deal with that packing of orders. What happens with EDI is you're going to be bringing in many, many orders from many suppliers, hopefully, and you'll be required to put those shipments together. The shipments that come together need a specific pack structure with cartons, pallets, and labels. The handheld that you're going to see today is directly interfacing with the database. So as I begin to build things on the scan gun, you'll see that they flow right into this console that we can actually manage the order and get it shipped out properly. This particular console is where I can make changes or repack an item, things like that. One of the giant benefits of what Data Masons and WiSys has worked on is over the last really 8 years that we've had integrated systems. The WiSys application here in the middle of the screen where it says Agility EDI Settings, we have pre-designed our systems to be compatible with the Vantage Point Data Mason product. So as shipments are flowing in and moving through the system, the integration is already built. No one has to do that. If you need to tweak it, you can tweak it. And also you'll see that I have a UCC 128 label. WiSys comes with a number of documents built into the system. Documents can be labels, barcode labels, or they could also be 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper like a packing list or an invoice. All these documents are pre-built in the system and you can tailor them just the way you want them. You can have unique documents by customer. So what we're going to see with the Data Masons application is I'm going to run the scheduler. The scheduler may look a little different than what you're familiar with today, but this is the current EDI product from Data Mason, and it's running as a service. You'll see me start the service, and it will begin to do its thing on timers with a number of these different processes are all individual and executing on a schedule. The one that I'm going to work on first is the PO inbound, which is going to build the shipment in the Macola database. The beautiful thing with an EDI product, the way Data Masons has designed it, is it's got complete automation. You'll be alerted when there's a problem, and you'll manage those alerts on an exception basis. So you don't have to look at everything that's happening, 1,000 orders in the system. You're going to work on the ones that might have a problem, and it's real easy to edit those and make changes. The workflow that I want you to pay attention to today, and I've outlined it here, is firstly, I will begin to start the scheduler. That'll bring in the purchase order, the 850. I'm then going to review that purchase order. WiSys has an application called Agility, and this Agility application deals with the automation of your order processing and the real-time reporting of that. So I can actually bring up Agility and sort and filter my orders, maybe just doing the ones that are important to me right now. From this user interface, I'll execute and print pick tickets. I will then use the handheld. The handheld will only be able to see orders that are pickable at status 4 in Macola. So I'll build that shipment. We'll then review the shipment and see the details as the shipment builds. And then down here in the background, as I do the confirm ship step and send out the UPS order, the scheduler understands that that's happened. It's watching the database for me. I don't have to do anything. It's all automatic. And finally, I'll wear the accounting hat and do some billing and invoicing. And then again, once that invoice is produced, the scheduler will see that invoice and it will automatically send it out. And then we'll stop and do some review and reporting, and then we'll have our discussion. Okay, if you're thinking of some questions in your mind, please go ahead and enter those in. Heather will keep track of those as we go. Okay, I'm going to stop here for just a second. I'm going to exit out. I'll go ahead and resume my screen. I'm sitting on the Data Mason scheduler. This would typically be running all the time, 24/7 on a server as a service, but I'm going to start it right here with this little button. If you were to hit Control-Alt-Delete on your computer and look at active services, you would see this scheduler running. You'll see here that different transactions are flowing in and out of the system as I'm talking. So by the time I minimize the system and switch over to the Agility desktop application, that order will already be in the system. So let's start here. These are all the orders in the system, 1 through 9. And I can filter very easily on this grid. I want to filter for maybe customer 3. So I can filter here and pick just customer 3. And you'll notice that the order that I just processed, this WiSys Data Mason purchase order number 2, is already in the system. Sitting right here, I have a little button. This little button in the system, I'm going to leave up. And it's a Transaction Lifecycle Explorer. This is a link between WiSys, Macola, and Data Masons, and it's keeping track of what's happening to this purchase order as it moves through its life cycle on a day-by-day basis. Okay. On this screen, I have the ability, I'm just going to open this up for just a second. And you'll see that I can filter and sort and group by different, if I wanted to see one particular customer and all of their orders, I can quickly do that. In this case, I want to go back and focus just on that particular order customer target, since this is an EDI overview. And so now I'm filtering just on all those orders that I might have in my system. You can see here that my order is quite simple. I have 2 line items, on the order. So I would arrange my orders, decide which ones are important, which ones I want to ship today, or maybe which orders could be shipped tomorrow. And I will just click on all of the orders, or one at a time, and I'll begin to execute. There's lots of ways to do this. I'm sure you have a number of different ways you might want to do it, working as a batch, a directed method for individuals, things like that. I'm going to keep it quite simple today. So here's an example of an embedded document in the system. This is stored inside SQL Server. You can have a separate pick ticket by customer if you wanted to. But this is my pick ticket that I'm going to use today. I'm going to go ahead and print that off. And when I'm done, I'll close it. And you'll see it'll switch to the status of the order will be switched over to confirm to the status of being picked. Okay. Now that I've got that order, I'm going to go ahead and begin the picking process. Okay. One second. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the handheld computer. The handheld computer, let me just show you what that looks like in case you're unfamiliar. I have my handheld computer right here. You'll notice that it has a full keyboard and the buttons, and there's arrow keys that can direct items up and down. You're going to hear me printing here in just a moment as I go. I just wanted to show you what that looked like. Okay. So here, I'm going to log into the handheld. And on the handheld, I'm going to do something called packing of cartons. All right. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to bring up the shipping console because we're going to use that. All right, so this side of my screen over here may be in the shipping office, and the handheld is going to be used by the person doing the shipping. All right. Let me go ahead and begin. So on the handheld scanner, I will hit enter, and I'll get a new shipment and a new carton. And I will scan my order number. And it looks like I've got a small problem. So I'm going to come back to the user interface over here. And I'm going to look back at Target. It still shows my order. And I'm going to reprint the pick ticket. No big deal. You guys out in the shop know that problems happen all the time. Sometimes you need to reprint stuff. Okay, back on the handheld. I'll try that same thing again. And now that my order is at status 4, it'll allow me to begin to pack that order. So the good news is when you do have a problem, the handheld stops you from moving ahead. It's real time. You can see that if I were to scan the order number instead of the particular item that I'm going to try and ship, I'll get an error because the order number is not on the order. So that's a real-time validation. So physically, what am I going to do? I have my picking document, maybe many of them, but in this case, I'm going to move through the warehouse and I'm going to grab the items that I'm going to build onto that order. So I'm in the aisle and I'm going to be building the shipment. So let's scan, let's walk over to the shelf and get the first item. And it says that I need 48 of these items. I'm going to put 24 in the box. This could be a standard packed item, and I could pack it that way too. All right. So you can hear now that I'm beginning to print labels. This is a UCC 128 label, and it's been designed and saved into the system just for this particular customer target. So this is their unique UCC 128, whatever they need. All right. I've got all the items in that box. I'm going to get a new carton, and I'm going to stay on the same order. And I'm going to scan another box, or another 24 of those items. And you'll see instead of telling me I need 48, I only need 24 now. So I'll go ahead and enter that. And I'll just touch the screen with my finger. I'm going to simulate that with my mouse so you can see it. So out come the UCC 128s. Just turn on my webcam so you can see what that's looking like. So here are the first two labels that have come out, matching that order. Has all the right information on it. Okay, let's continue. Another carton, and this time I'm going to scan the next item, and it says I need 60. I'll put 30 in this carton. Get another label. Get another carton. Get another item. Enter the quantity. Okay, I'm going to stop right here. I haven't finished this carton yet, but let's go over and look at the shipping tree. If I were the manager, I could look up this particular order, and you'll be able to see carton 1, carton 2, carton 3, but carton 4 has not been added to the order yet until I click this button. So the beauty of this is it's a real-time packing system, and I'm building up the data that the ASN is going to need right here. There's my fourth one. All I need to do is refresh the screen, and there's the fourth carton. I have all the information I need. I'm going to go ahead and finalize the order, and all I need to do is push the UPS button. The UPS button is hot because the order header was directed to UPS. But because the system knows that things can happen, what if it weighed too much? Maybe the shipping team needs to ship it LTL. It's just too big to go UPS. I can also change the shipping via right here if I want. There's a number of buttons across the screen. I did handheld packing, but if you don't have handhelds and you still need to do picking and packing, you can actually pack the order right here. You can add a pallet, add an item, or add a carton, add items, or add an individual item, or do a standard pack. All of that can be done from this user interface. So whether you decide that you want to move around the warehouse with a cart, or have somebody with a little dolly going around getting items, then bringing back to a pack station, all of those are valid ways to build a shipment. Today I was showing you how to do it on a mobile handheld device. I'm going to go ahead and confirm ship the order here. And when I do that, I'm going to get my UPS integration. WiSys has integration with UPS FedEx. So if you find this process to be very efficient, we can replace, some other third-party system that you might already be using. The weights for the system have come out of the item master. If you had a scale, you can actually weigh each box if you wanted to. And I've also mapped a couple of fields. This is the PO number, and this is my order number. So these are the fields that are on the reference, and I can stick those on there if I need to. If the shipping department got a last-minute phone call, you need to ship this overnight, I could make a last-minute change here. So there's lots of information available. Now, the next step is when I click this button, it'll go ahead and it will go ahead and do the confirm ship step, and you'll see that all the labels come out. So here are all my UPS labels. I've got those that I can apply to each box. Get an option to see the charges here. These charges, the weight, all of the tracking numbers are going to be written back into Macola. Okay. And we're going to print a packing list. Again, this is optional. Those of you that are doing shipping to Amazon or .coms online know that you'll need a specific packing list to show that it was shipped on behalf of Target by someone else. So all of these documents can be saved right into the system. You can start with our template and move on from there. Okay, I have left up the screen, I believe, somewhere. Let's see if I have that up here. Here, no, not that one. Not that one. Not that one. Okay. Let's go back into the WiSys user interface for a moment. And I'll refresh the screen. You notice I'm at the ship step. Go ahead and bring up this again. Just as fast as the system was happening in front of you today, the scheduler was paying attention to what happened in the database. So now we can see in the life cycle of this particular PO, it's now generated the ASN.
So Bob, can I just step in for a second and point out that you can press the data buttons related to the PO and the ASN and show the audience. So this is the originating purchase order as it came in. So you have direct access from either Agility or directly from Macola. There's a way to link it in there, as well as for the ASN. There's also a report button. So if you're not comfortable reading EDI, there's a way to see that same information in more of a report format with all the data elements explained.
And the same is true, Glenn.
For the outbound. Yep, for the outbound document.
So if we come back here and we look at the outbound information, we can see just the ASN information now for the ship notice. Again, all that information is there. And we've got the raw data also in case you need to dig into that.
Yeah, and I'll just comment, what's valuable about this screen is that if say a partner took a deduction on a payment and they claimed that the ship notice was late or there was some other discrepancy, you've got everything together in one place, including the purchase order, the invoice, the ship notice, the order acknowledgement, purchase order change, even the payment itself, the payment remittance. So everything's together in one place. So please go on, Bob.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. Okay, sitting on this screen, this is what we call our order console. There's a number of things we can do here. So imagine I had a list of 50 orders that you processed through the system today. You'd have that list of 50 orders right here, and you can easily select it and go in and do billing. I can go in and do the billing step right here. I could bill all of these orders, or I can bill individual orders. I can change some of the variables over here to put additional information in. So just simple, I'll just press the billing button for that one order. I get a pop-up. It says, would you like to invoice it? And because I want to be really efficient and automated, I'm going to say yes. Go ahead and print that to the screen for me. Go ahead and increase this a little bit. So here's our invoice that's been printed. And in the background, what's the scheduler doing? The scheduler is picking this up already, and it's already transmitting the 810 back. Okay. So it's off this screen, and the invoice has been printed. All that's left to do now is the posting. And you can see here, inside the order console, the Agility console, I'm actually calling some of the Macola components. So through one user interface, you can be a WiSys user and a Macola user at the same time if you want that functionality. We have a whole library of about 150 different components that you can just add to your menu, just the ones you need. And these can be handled through roles, so individuals can have these different components and others can't. I'll go ahead and post. And I'll go ahead and send that to my PDF printer. And I'll go through the posting process. And I'll go ahead and exit here. And go back to the menu. And now that the order's been posted and the ASN has been sent, I can go in and do a little quick reporting using the WiSys calendar here. So here we are, Thursday the 15th. You can easily see what I've got booked and invoiced. If you want to put more information on this screen, how many orders have been picked, how many have been shipped, things like that, it's all here. If I click on what's been invoiced, I have a scroll bar down at the bottom and I can see particular orders. So here's the order that's been invoiced, just one of them. So this is a real-time execution and reporting system. So I've got things very automated, very much integrated and working together. And Data Masons, the scheduling system, is handling all the heavy lifting, getting the EDI transactions back and forth. So maybe right now would be a time to just go to Q&A. That's pretty much the overview that I wanted to cover today. And let's see, how are we doing? We rolled through that in about 30 minutes.
Oh, great. Well, thanks, Bob. As a reminder to everyone that's on the webinar, if you have any questions, please go ahead and submit them in the Q&A section in the bottom right of your WebEx screen. So it does look like we have a few questions in here so far, Bob and Glenn. So let's see the first one here. What version of Vantage Point is running? I don't recognize the scheduler screen. It doesn't look like ours.
I'll take that question. This is Glenn. In Bob's demonstration, he's working with Vantage Point 4, which is our latest release. And it includes a revamped user interface as well as accessibility of the scheduler itself right from the client, so you don't have to access the machine that's running the scheduler service. So it's a big improvement over previous versions.
Great. Okay. Well, we have some more questions in here. How are new alternate address codes, addresses, and contacts managed?
Those alternate addresses are saved in the Macola system. When those come through, they're mapped in to match what's coming in through the EDI. So if you were to open Macola up and look at your customer and go to the alternate address, there would be linkage there. If there's any problems with that, that's going to end up as an exception, and we'll have to get that cleaned up. Does that answer the question? Does that sound correct, Glenn?
Yes. Your answer is correct. They may be referring to, say, the partner's reference for delivery location, so they might have like a global location number on their system. And so let's say, for argument's sake, Target had a store in the Dallas region, and the Macola user set it up as a ship-to coded Dallas, for argument's sake, but Target views it as store 1019. There's a place in Macola ES and Macola 10 to put in that reference value, that 1019 that Target's using. In progression, we suggest that you provision one of the user fields, and we can then leverage that for what we would refer to as a cross-reference for the delivery address.
The person did ask, add a little bit more to his question, and it said, is there a provision to automatically update them in Macola or add them?
We actually do have a way to add the addresses to the system, but it's not often used because there's usually elements that need to be factored, so tax codes as well as salesperson, even territory, which are part of the alternate address table. So it's quite possible, but we would need to explore, let's say the settings that would need to be implemented beyond just the address itself. So that could be discussed if they want to reach out to myself for further discussion.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. A bunch more questions are coming in here. Does the product work for multiple customers, or is there a need for individual licenses per customer?
Well, on the WiSys, I guess we should take that, both of us. If you have one server with WiSys and Macola on it, then you're going to have a license for Macola with multi-company. So as long as that's all on that one server for that one company, that group of companies, then WiSys user count and licensing is going to cross the enterprise. So if you're a location that has a shipping operation in New Jersey, Chicago, and LA, you'll be able to log in, distribute your users across your enterprise, and we'll manage that from one license agreement. Now, on the Data Mason side, Glenn, you might want to take that. How do you license across companies?
Similar to WiSys, we charge based on the server. So there's you have the rights to use it on one production system, one of our licenses. And but if you have a test instance, there's no additional fees to have test instances of it. The question related to customers, so the way it was phrased is there extra charges per customer? And we license maps that relate specifically to each partner based on their different EDI requirements and formats. So for example, you could not use, say, an invoice map for Target that works for Target. You could not send that same information to Walmart. They wouldn't accept it. So there has to be a specific map for each partner, and therefore there's an additional fee, but it's a map fee, which is a really small amount relative to the overall license cost of the system. Okay. And if there's a multi-company scenario where one organization is managing the EDI for multiple entities, so let's say I have a company called Acme, and I've got 4 sub-companies that are doing EDI. The first 3 production companies are free of charge, are included in the license. Additional companies is a nominal to add on more beyond 3 production companies.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. The next question, actually, I can take. Will you make a video of this presentation available so I can show other members of our team? And yes, tomorrow, everyone who registered for this webinar will receive in an email the recording link that you can watch at your convenience. A few more questions in here. If we have Macola ERP but a different WMS other than WiSys, do we have to use WiSys WMS to be able to integrate agility?
Could you restate that one more time?
Sure. If we have Macola ERP but a different WMS other than WiSys, do we have to use WiSys WMS to be able to integrate agility?
You have a different WMS, but you want to use agility. So I think the question relates to the desktop. So the desktop application that I was using, whether it is this user interface, this is agility inside Macola 10. If you're on progression or if you're on ES, you would probably use the desktop version, just so you can see what a component looks like here. These are just widgets with the new Macola user interface. You come in here and just drop a widget on the screen, and then you can come in and look at your orders and sort and stack and things like that. So the WiSys applications come with a specific license to be able to use this with Macola 10. If you want to use agility on the desktop like I was doing, like over here, maybe with the console, this console works with the Macola 10 product here. You know, I can come in here and edit this particular order. So you can use the agility components on the desktop with progression, ES, or Macola 10. So what you're seeing me do here, with the exception of calling these Macola screens, like if you're on progression, we don't call progression screens. But if you're using some other WMS and you want to use agility, you can certainly do that. This particular functionality that I did on the desktop this building of a shipment could be done without a handheld scanner, so you could use this separate. So you could move your material with a different WMS system. So if you wanted to actually do staging, maybe moving it from bins in the warehouse with your WMS and push them over to the staging area and then build your shipment there, it's possible you could do that in a blend. For those of you that are using the older Macola WMS product, the WiSys applications, if you wanted to add our WMS, they can coexist for a period of time. We've had customers do that. The way we integrate with Macola is very different than the way the WMS does its polling. So it's possible that the two systems could coexist for a period of time while you cut over. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you, Bob. A few more questions here. Can we map each and every field in Macola database? For example, promise date and requested ship dates.
So the system does that. So Vantage Point has a configuration screen that enables you to define which dates go in. Now, in Macola, you've got the ship date, the required the request date, the required ship date, and the promise date. You could get more dates on the inbound document. So all of them are written as comments as well, but you can define which dates get into, say, the promise date field when you integrate. And there's even a provision for date logic. So let's say they only sent in a ship date, but you know that they have a 15-day cancel. So you can, in the cancel date in the partner setup, you could put in the request date, add 15 days, and you know that that's the cancel date, and populate that accordingly into Macola. So there's a fair amount of flexibility, and the answer is yes. you can.
Okay. And does Data Masons allow mapping on a customer-by-customer basis? In other words, mapping for customer A is different than mapping for customer B.
It depends on the document that we're talking about. I've got to assume you're talking about the inbound purchase order to sales order process. There's limitations there, but you can absolutely have the orders written differently across, based on the type of data that's being sent in. So it's a little bit of a complex answer to try to answer it right here and now, but you can reach out to me and I'll be happy to get into the details of the answer to that question.
Okay, and a few more questions here. Where was the control that allowed you to view the EDI 850 and 856 details by order?
That control was in the browser. So, Bob, if you bring that browser window back up again.
Sure.
And effectively, there's a URL that you can launch. Why don't you go into the Macola inquiry screen and launch it from there. So you can use Screen Designer to add a link button to the actual order inquiry.
This is the one we just did.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And
so there's a TLE button on there. That stands for transaction.
We've added that.
Yep. And all it does is it launches a browser with a URL in there. It leverages data inside of Macola to build out that URL, and it displays accordingly. And now you see the invoice based on the activities that Bob undertook during the course of the demo. So Heather, any other questions?
Okay. Yep, just a couple more. So is the software compatible in a virtual network environment? What server and client requirements exist?
From the Data Mason side, it's absolutely compatible. It works with Hyper-V, with Azure, with VMware. And as far as system requirements are concerned, it's basically a relatively current version of Microsoft SQL and a Microsoft OS, whether it be Windows 8 and higher or Windows Server 2008 and higher, SQL Server 2008 and higher as well. And Bob, from the WiSys standpoint.
Yeah, I went to our website here, and these are our system requirements. This is just WiSys, support at WiSys.com. You just go to WiSys.com and hit the support button, and you can come in here and look. These are all the server requirements. We have many customers that are virtualized, running in the cloud with Rackspace, with Amazon, and things like that. All those are just fine. As some customers can start with this same application on 2 guns, so it's easy to start with this solution, with a 2-gun solution and scale. We have customers with 102 guns. So depending on what your scope is and how big you want to get, you can grow with this product. There's no limitation that we've found in terms of scale at this point within the small to mid-sized business arena. Down below here, there's RDP settings, things like that, application servers, printing. These are all the different things that we support in our environment. Anybody else?
Yeah, a couple more questions here. Are user guides and reference materials available? And if so, what format and how complete are they?
The WiSys applications are documented right here. If I want to come in here and do purchase orders on a mobile gun, I have documentation and things like that. And we have a lot of videos at WiSys. We have many videos for training videos over here, being able to watch our training videos, a number of different hyperlinks for you to work through. And of course, we have consultants that can help you and business partners that understand the product too. Glenn, how about you?
From the Data Mason side, our user manual is updated with every release. It's literally hundreds of pages long. It has not just reference style documentation, but it's also has how-to guides, process flow guides. It also is it's accessible through a web browser link. We provide that link, though, only to licensed users of the system, so you'd have to own the system to get that link. But if you wanted to look at it prior to licensing the system, we can set up a presentation and do it together in this type of WebEx style meeting.
Okay, great. Just a couple quick more questions here. Which program produces the ASN labels?
The WiSys applications produce that label. As you saw from my PowerPoint, I had a picture of that. And as I was packing the order, the ASN label came out for each carton as I packed. That's one of the things we're big on is as you're doing it, we want to get that label on the right box as you go. Some people do batch print, which is another way of doing it, and either way is fine. Those WiSys labels are actually saved in the system. If I come over here and look at options, and I look at documents, and I look for packing, and I look at cartons, here's my UCC 128. I can either make it public for everybody that gets that UCC 128, or I could come in here and make it private, and I could make it private for a specific customer, and I can then drill down and get that customer 3 target, and I can make this particular UCC 128 now private for target. That's one easy way to do that. So WiSys prints those labels for you.
And the idea there with the private clients to get the customer-specific format, because most customers require their own unique format.
And that was actually the next question here. Is the system able to produce a packing slip for Staples.com? They have a specific format requirement.
Yes. That's related to the .coms, is that correct?
Yes, I would say that's one of the .coms that comes through Commerce Hub. And each one of them, most of them has a unique format that's required, so that if you're shipping on behalf of, say, Staples, that they get Staples formatted packing list, like they might receive from, you could order 5 different things coming from 5 different vendors through Staples.com, and they all arrive maybe in separate packages, but they all have the same looking packing slips. So yeah, that's
packing
something that
slips,
WiSys does.
That's right. So those packing slips or documents can be saved and connected back to each customer that you ship to. And the shipping system, if you're shipping on behalf of Target and Target gives you their UPS account number, you just plug that into our system, and as those labels and as those documents get printed out for that particular customer, they're all connected that way.
Okay, and I have one last question here. That transaction history screen seemed like it would be very useful for our company. Can it be accessed from the Macola order inquiry screen?
So the answer is yes. I mean, you can basically access it from any place in Macola that has, context to it. So you'd have to be looking at a screen that has something to do with orders. And once there's a connection between the order that you're viewing that originated through EDI, then it would open up the correct transaction history, or what we call the Lifecycle Explorer screen.
And I did have that button on that screen, which is
yes.
a VBA type button that calls that browser.
Okay, it looks like that is it for our questions. So I'd like to thank everyone for giving us your time today, and I hope you found the presentation useful. As you can see, we have a screen up with Bob's contact information, Data Mason's contact information, and like I mentioned earlier, everyone who attended and registered for the webinar today will receive an email tomorrow with a link to the recording as well as contact information for both companies.
Heather, I'd just like to mention before we end that the email address is DM sales, not sales@datamasons.com. So it's DM like Data Masons, sales@datamasons.com. So apologize for that error.
How about that, Glenn? I fixed it in real time.
That's what it is.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.